I don't really make these type of videos. For the OG ones that have actually seen the first video that I made, you guys know there was a time where I talked a little bit about how I felt at the moment. That video's not currently up, just because at the moment I thought it was cringe. I don't even know why I thought that, but it's not there anymore. But I feel like as of late, there has been some changes in my life. Um, Nothing super crazy, I would just say, when it comes to like the mental aspect of things. I've been thinking a whole lot more. For those of you who do not know, I graduated from college about a month ago. I'm pretty excited to be done with school, as that's not really the stuff I wanted to do, like as far as spending time went. Um, for people who know me, they know I and doing like my own ventures and stuff like that. So to some extent it was holding me back, but then also I don't want to use it as an excuse for not achieving the things that I had planned. But I just kind of wanted to get on here because I just felt like talking exactly about how I'm feeling and the changes life really brings. So when I was in college, I would say for the past 7-ish months, just mentally, I don't think I was in the best state, just off of maybe like not being happy. I don't know what exactly it is, but I couldn't really feel emotions to the full extent. It almost felt like I was drifting through life. I kind of had an idea of what it might have been, but I feel when you're with your friends or when you have roommates or in a setting like college, I feel you're always occupied with something. Sometimes you forget to kind of pull away and sit with your thoughts, and I think that's one of the most important things to do. In my case, I'd have these thoughts sometimes about like wanting to listen to myself, um, just to go then and get to the next um, level of person I want to be, things I want to do. I feel you have to sit down and really think about where you're at in life, what you need to fix as of right now to be able to be where you see yourself. But that's really hard when you have friends constantly doing stuff, or you feel some type of way, but you're not really able to feel your emotions and whatever it is you're going through, just because you have that outside influence. You might be getting advice from people, your friends, like I said. In my case, it was roommates and just people I was with. Not that it was necessarily bad, but that was just what it was for me. And my lease just ended, so I really, there was really just no point in me being in Utah, because I had decided that I really did want to leave the second I was graduated. I kind of had no idea where I wanted to go, but I guess I just chose New York City as a place to be while I'm figuring out jobs and what it is I want to do. I feel like this was a big transition from where I was at. I really had no expectations. It's just kind of like, I'm gonna be here for a while and see what happens. And then at the end of my time, if I like it, I like it. If not, I'll kind of leave and see where it is I feel I belong. Um, so what hit me sooner than I really expected was just finding out more about myself. I feel I've really kind of been learning about myself. Surprisingly, it was mostly negative. Um, I kind of had an idea that the state of um, the state of my mind is not the best. I feel like I'm pretty ambitious and driven when it comes to accomplishing certain things, but for some reason my brain thinks very negatively. Um, so when I transitioned to New York City, I don't really have friends here. I don't really know people here. So what that leaves you with is a lot of time to sit with yourself. I'm not occupied with a job, so I have a lot of time. So some things that I've understood about myself during this time, just because I really didn't have anyone to talk to like I did before, I had to sit with them and really understand the root cause of why I feel the things I feel. I actually wrote down some of the things I feel, and some of these things are perfectionism, comparison, lack of confidence, and people pleasing. I feel like sometimes the way people perceive you is not exactly how you feel inside. Um, it might be through social media. I feel like I post somewhat often, and maybe the vibe it gives off is glamorous. And I don't want to say I live in a life of struggle, because I don't. Praise God for that. But sometimes the stuff people assume is not exactly the truth. And it almost felt like I created this different persona. Um, I think the best word to describe that is ego. And what ego really is a false identity. It's almost like creating an identity of you that is not true, but it fits the way you want people to see you. I think I'm pretty ambitious. I have goals. I kind of have an idea of what it is I want to do. But first thing that comes to my brain is, I won't succeed in this. It's not gonna happen. And I think about negative things immediately instead of being positive. Um, I don't want to say I bring up too much excuses, but it's almost like I think so negatively that I get paralyzed in whatever situation I'm in. So then I can't take the first step. I overthink. I overthink a lot instead of seeing things as they are, being present in the moment, and just accepting things as is. I attach my identity so much with financials, what I can provide, what I can give to people. I think as a man, it's natural almost to feel that way. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but it's almost like I have such low self-esteem to where I almost feel like I'm just living without purpose. I don't know why I connect so much of myself and who I am to money, essentially. I feel that's like the biggest struggle I have. So That's something I discovered about myself, and that's not how it should. I was listening to this podcast yesterday, and it was talking about mortality rates and stuff like that. And from people that do suicide and die, on the male side, from the notes, most of it said it had to do with financials and men not feeling enough. Especially in the world of AI, I feel if you're not on the winning side, then there's not much to be happy with AI, because if you're on the other side of things where it's taking your job, you're not left with much. I don't think AI is doing much for that person in that sense. It brings down your self-worth so much, because then you kind of see the future and you're like, all of this time I've been maybe like learning to code, or I thought about creating a family and now I'm laid off. And it kind of brings you to the question of like, why, like, what's the point of all this? I'm not saying I'm currently in that state, but that's just something I listened to from a podcast, and I thought it was pretty interesting. Because I kind of see it. I think we all see it. And then when it comes to women's side, it was more with emotional stuff and having to feel connected with people, which also I think in a woman's nature makes sense. So when I really sat down, I dig deep. I think one of the best things you can have for yourself is self-love. So when I'm speaking this, I'm speaking not only for the person on the other side of the screen that might be listening, but also for myself. You have to learn to love yourself by detaching yourself from everything the world says is valuable. I think money solves a lot of problems, and I think you need money, but you shouldn't make money an idol. That's definitely where I was at. I still struggle with that. I think that's where I'm at, and I'm kind of working towards that. But when you really think about ego and not accomplishing things, and maybe you don't think stuff you think in your head can actually become reality, that is caused due to fear, is what I believe. And I wrote this down yesterday in my journal. And fear in itself is false evidence appearing to be real. In my case, I'll give an example. Let's say I want to have a marketing agency. Let's say I run Facebook ads. When I'm thinking that type of stuff, first thing that comes to my brain is, oh, you're not gonna make it. In a year or two, AI is gonna come in and like some type of app will be able to do that, and then businesses will start using it, and you're just gonna be left with nothing. That's the type of crippling thought I'd be having. But when you bring that back to the meaning of what fear is, it's false evidence appearing real. I don't know for sure if that's what's gonna happen. Even if that's what's gonna happen, it shouldn't stop me from still pursuing you, because in the current moment as I'm living right now, that is not what's happening. So we need to stop fearing things and imagining things that don't really exist, and we gotta be able to live in the present. But going back to your inner child, I think when a kid is born and as you grow up, you really have no worry in your mind about anything pretty much. And that's kind of what you have to bring yourself back to. If you don't love yourself, it's gonna be very hard to go out and love somebody else. Love the things you do, whether it be a job, whether it be a person. You have to love yourself. Who am I without a job? Who am I without friends? Who am I when everything else is taken away from me? You have to ask yourself those questions and come to the conclusion that you are a child of the Creator. What I mean by that is, I am made by a God who lacks nothing. God Himself is the purest form of love. And that's the highest form of love you can ever experience, is the type of love God has for you. And the love of the Creator should be your focus, should be my focus, should be everybody's focus. So we can't really be looking towards the world to give us identity of who we are, but instead we should be looking to God. I was listening to this one YouTuber and he said one thing that stood out to me. He said, we make the world a reality and God the illusion. We give so much of ourselves identity through worrying and not being hopeful that we almost think the God who created us and loves us so much really has no plans for us. And that is not the case. Instead, it should be the opposite. I was going through Romans 12 this morning, and it says, do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, His good, pleasing, and perfect will. And I think if our Creator is love, and we're created with love, we definitely have a life worth pursuing, a life that's gonna be good. Of course, God has the best intentions for you. So why not trust God, and why not trust what God has said to be true in our lives, which is really good, instead of having to look to the world, which is not real, and give ourselves identity. And I've really struggled with the thought of like surrendering and letting it go, putting it at the feet of Jesus. I know people talk about that, but it's kind of like a hard topic for me, because most of the times, if I'm being completely honest, it feels like I'm doing that and I'm talking to a wall. And that's just the truth. So I kind of was in a place where I even stopped doing that, because I'm like, why does it feel like I'm always coming to God with my problems and whatnot, and I'm still not finding a solution? So what I came to conclusion when it comes to that is that it was more so me wanting to control my future and me wanting things to happen at my own time, instead of letting the Creator, the man who sees things from above, for him things are way clear. Why do I have a hard time trusting Him? No, I have a hard time trusting that. And that's what I've realized about myself. But what we really need to do is, yes, we can pray those type of prayers, but in God's time, in God's will. If that's according to the plan that God has for us, it will happen. And we need to be able to trust God with our future, that He has good plans for us, and we need to kind of surrender and let go of whatever it is we think should happen at the moment. And I feel the biggest reason why I have a hard time letting go is because of ego. I have created this personality, this person that really does not exist. And my ego does not want to let go of the person I am right now. And the person I am right now is very influenced with what the world says I should be. and ego's false reality. My true self is me loving God and trusting God fully with the person I am, and not some, well, I'm this and I should be that and I deserve this. I think all that's true, all that's correct. You should want more. And you can make a lot happen with action, of course. But you need to be able to trust God to lead you in that. And you need to talk. You don't need to be very negative with your self-talk. That's one thing I realized. I'm like, man, I'm a bum. I really can't contribute much when it comes to society or even to my family. I really want to be able to help and, be that person. And there's a verse in the Bible, it's Proverbs 4:23, and it says, above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. What you speak into yourself is something that you're going to be able to live. And so if that's the case, why do I speak so much negativity into my life, and why am I not positive? Why do I not speak life into me so that I can be able to live good things, It really did bring me back to that. And so you should speak self-love into yourself. So sometimes I feel there's what we want to happen, which is not always what God wants our life to be. Or there's the person you are right now, and there's the person who God has planned for you to be, which is all good and all nice. And then in between, there's all of the stuff we have in our brain. That might be doubt, ego, certain actions we do that prevent us from being able to see what God has planned for us. Because sometimes what God has really planned for us might be in a certain timing, but just because we are not aligned with that mindset, we're not able to reach that goal. So I think it's really important to develop that relationship with God, so then you're able to see how you can navigate things as they happen. In my case, I moved to New York City. I might not know where I want to move like in the next month or so. So when you bring that back to, if it's how Nahom thinks, it has a lot to do with me just being depressed and trying to figure everything out, and me just being in a bad state of mind, instead of me having a connection with my Creator, who knows the best for me and who knows exactly how my life should go. Instead of me praying to that, I'm doing something else, and I think that's really bad. So we need to be able to have that relationship with God, because that's what really is our Creator wants a relationship with us. And I think the more relationship you have with God, you're able to discover what it is you have to do and what it is, what your next steps are. It's way easier when you're communicating with God to be able to hear it in different ways, to be able to navigate. But me moving to New York, actually, I mean, I expected this to happen, like me sitting with myself and me learning a lot about myself, because in such a long time, this is the first time in a long time I've been with myself, with no friends in a city. I don't know anybody. I expected it to happen at some point, but it really happened to me like a week deep. And I thought about a lot, and I figured I share. I know it's not something I usually share like that, but I don't know. I think it's just good to put it out there. And maybe for anybody that's going through in a moment of, like, maybe in a mindset where you're just not sure of what might happen, please, please, please do not put your identity in what the world thinks you should be, but instead create a relationship with your creator who has the best plans and best intents for you. And I feel a whole lot will be easier as you're trusting in God and walking in His purpose. It's just gonna turn out good.